Hello, welcome back to our channel. This is going to be a very short video on what we call the best way, maybe not the best way, but a good way to talk to God or a good way to pray if you're facing challenges in your life. This is for somebody, or if you've already developed the ability to have a witness, which means you've had time to meditate and you can take some space from your mental thoughts and your emotional reactivity. You're able to observe yourself a bit and find some peace and calm. And from that state, this is what God has taught us, is you want to be able to ask a question, and the divine is waiting for us to ask this question so the divine can intervene on our behalf to help us out. And what does that question sound like, Persia?
Well, I would start out by just making it clear from what we've been shown in our personal direct experience is that the divine has one goal, and that's for us to be in union, to awaken internally. And that's what all the sages and saints and prophets and all traditions and all the enlightened beings taught. So they've gone on that journey. And so God's greatest desire is for us to know our true nature, for us to know our true self, the divine within, the Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it. Because that's the divine's only goal, for us to know what we already are, what our true nature is. The divine is incredibly willing and waiting very patiently for us to give permission, to get help, to get what's in the way of us perceiving our true nature. And this is our wounds and our suffering, the conditioning in our mind, our trauma responses, all that stuff. And there is indeed a divine intelligence of infinite love, and it's connected to light. And when you're in that light, you're completely enveloped in a sense of peace and love, and there aren't words to describe it. You have to experience it directly. But the divine wants us to continue to open to that light and to remove what's in the way, to know that love inside of ourselves as our true nature completely to the utmost degree, which is a lot to go on that journey. But when we're beginning, if you want a response from the divine infinite loving intelligence internally, and you want to be able to practice this to work through all your difficulties in any area of life, you don't just complain and pray and whatever. Yeah, God will listen to you if you pray for this and that. Sometimes it depends on if it's part of your destiny. But if you have problems going on, you want to ask the divine, what do I need to see inside myself that's false? What do I need to heal? What am I holding on to? What am I responsible for that's not in alignment with my true nature, with the internal divine loving power within me? And we've trained a lot of clients on how to do this, and they feel a little skeptical at first because you're not aware that you have always, you can't ever not be connected to the divine. Every single thought that you have is completely a conversation with the divine. There's not a split second of your life that isn't in relationship to the divine. It's just that we lose that awareness when we come down here. So if we want to come back into that awareness, we have to let go of all the junk that's hurting us and holding us back, where we're holding on to pain. And a lot of that pain, because it's familiar, it becomes comfortable, and the brain is scared to let go of it. That comfort is actually pleasure for the brain, even if it's really toxic. So when you pray for help and guidance, the first thing that you want to do is ask, can you show me and help me with the proper steps? What am I holding that I need to let go of? Number one, that right there is God's greatest desire for you. So you're going to get a response. And sometimes, the divine wants you to work for it because they want to see your sincerity. The divine wants to know that you're so deeply committed.
We like to say the sincerity and devotion you have opens this door. And when I started doing this work myself, after several years, I met Persia, and then Persia told me, I think in our first conversation, she said, everything starts with a good question. So you don't necessarily just keep praying and asking God to fix things. The better way to do this is to go, what am I not seeing? God, please show it to me. So you're taking responsibility for seeing something that you're holding on to that's causing some of the problems in your life, and you're asking God to show me what that problem is, and you will be shown. And then you have to start working on yourself to, figure out why that problem, after God shows it to you, you kind of figure out through the different methods that we've learned and teach and have, the great traditions talk about, taking self-responsibility and start to dismantle those stories that we're holding on to.
Usually we're asking for things that are external to be changed. And sometimes, that may or may not be the correct thing to do. But if you're focusing instead on what suffering am I holding that's blocking my way, number one, you're going to feel maybe some doubt about this in the beginning. You do not want to analyze it. You do not want to just come up with some regurgitated answer to your question that you've heard some thought leader spew, because thought leaders can be academics rather than people who've done initiation. When you start talking to God like this, you're opening your life to the path of initiation. This is about deep transformation of our suffering to get rid of what's blocking us from living a fulfilling, loving life. Because you only live a fulfilling, loving life when you know who you are. So you have to get rid of what's in the way. That's how the divine works. The divine has been eagerly waiting for us to give our permission and our free will to say, I'm not just going to make up some spiritual story that I heard from somebody else. I am really willing to be in a receptive, open, surrendered state. I'm handing this problem over to the divine. I'm not going to sit here and try to be so intelligent and so spiritual that I have it figured out. I recognize that I have blocks to what I can see. I don't want to get into psychoanalysis. I don't want to, misguide myself through my own mind and ego that is clouded right now. I need to surrender myself. That act and understanding of surrender, that there is this immense loving force. And you can, a lot of the places we start with clients is just saying, because, there's such a deeply embedded culture of neglect in how children are raised and what they're conditioned to think makes them worthy of love, that people don't even recognize that they have neglect from their true needs. And when you have neglect from your true needs because you are a divine being, the child knows it, whether you've acknowledged it or not. And the way that your body responds is that it doesn't feel safe when those needs aren't met. So you start shutting down. And you might think, I had a great loving childhood, I love my parents, everything's fine. But the truth is that unless your parents are enlightened, you're going to inherit some work to do, at least some. Some people obviously have better situations, and we're not saying you need to go and blame your parents for what they didn't know. What we're saying is we all develop patterns that block us from seeing the truth. And this affects everything that's going on in the world right now. We have to make a commitment to become people who understand loving kindness and peace internally, because the world won't change until we do that. And our personal lives won't change until we do that.
So this way of practicing a prayer or practicing a conversation with God is about self-empowerment. You're not giving your power to someone else. What you're doing is you're taking the power and you're self-empowering to ask the divine, because you're honest and you're sincere and you want to see the truth, right? We have to be honest about that. That this, whatever's in our way is blocking our path, is something that is being generated by a story, a false belief, or a misperception that we carry. And we're willing to see that and we're willing to remove it. And there's usually hard work to do to remove it, but the first step is to acknowledge that God has to show it to you and that you're willing to see it and that you're willing to work on it. So I think that's basically where you start if you're going to start practicing this.
And
That's good.
you really do need to feel a sense of love.
Yeah.
In order to rely on and take that step to surrender to the divine. So maybe even just starting there, what is in the way of me experiencing an awareness
More
of
love.
divine love?
Yeah.
What am I holding on to that's protecting me and blocking me from feeling that? And you're not necessarily going to get your answer immediately, but if you're in a peaceful state at the end of your daily meditation, start asking questions about specific things that you're working on and be willing to work with your suffering. Not everybody's ready for that stage, but if you are ready for that stage, know that that is a cooperative process between you and the infinite divine love that is your nature. And the more that you ask that, patiently wait, continue to ask it, you will get either an insight that you've never thought of before, a dream, a message, something will align around you to support that. Usually it's intuitive because that's the best. That's coming from the divine heart within you, the most utmost love. That will increase your intuition just because you're willing to surrender whatever's false.
So get a good question, make a good prayer with the question, and then wait and give time for a response to come, and then that will help you move forward when you start working on whatever that response is.
And you can begin to become your own self-healer.
That's right. Okay. Thank you, guys. We'll see you again.